So, good afternoon everyone. I'm Amna. I'm an independent researcher and I'm doing a presentation on my research paper called The Wounds That Will Not Go Away, The Exploration of Trauma in A Little Life. A Little Life is a Booker shortlisted novel. It is a sprawling 700-page novel, so it will be a bit challenging to unpack everything, but I will try my best. We spoke a lot about the connection between literature and mental health during this conference, and this book also talks about that. So this is a trauma narrative, and trauma narratives can help us heal. Trauma narratives can encourage readers to approach others with greater understanding and compassion. And that is why we need to go deep into these books. We need to read them deeply. And that's what I'm doing. This is my research question. How does A Little Life portray trauma as something that persists and reshapes vulnerability over time? This is the methodology that I have used. So we can't talk about the theme of trauma in this novel without talking about the protagonist, Jude St. Francis. There is a lot to Jude's story. I'll try to keep it brief. So Jude is abandoned as an infant. He grows up at a monastery where he is physically and sexually abused. He is 8 years old when he is groomed by a priest at the monastery. He is trafficked into sex work by this priest, then rescued by the police only to be abused at the care home that he is sent to. He runs away from the care home but is soon abducted. His abductor tortures him for days before he runs him over with a car and leaves him for dead. Jude is rescued, but he wakes up in the hospital with disabilities. So Jude does not break despite all the things that happen to him. He strives for a better life and eventually he manages to succeed to an extent. So he manages to build a relatively stable life for himself. But his traumatic past continues to expose him to further harm. Jude gets into a romantic relationship after years of struggling with trust and intimacy, but the relationship turns out to be incredibly abusive. At one point, his partner almost kills Jude in a fit of rage, and he undoes all the recovering, all the healing that Jude had so far accomplished. Jude has a lot of loved ones, but Willem, his closest friend since college, is his anchor. Willem realizes that he loves Jude and they both get into a romantic relationship. With Willem, Jude finally gets to experience a sort of loving romantic relationship. Although it is rocky at first, they struggle with intimacy and communication at first, but eventually they manage to save their relationship and Jude experiences a loving romantic relationship. He gets to experience domesticity. He gets to experience having a home that he always wanted. And it's all going well for Jude, as well as it can go, but then Jude and Willem almost grow old together. Willem dies in a horrific car accident when Jude is 50 years old. This is Jude's last and fatal trauma. After this, Jude is unable to recover and he takes his life, and that is Jude's story. If you look at Jude's story, we see that all the bad things that happen to him are connected. They somewhat lead from one thing to the another. So we cannot say that Jude's life story is a series of unfortunate events. It is a series of cumulative unfortunate events. Through Jude's story, we can see that trauma is, in a lot of cases, connected. Trauma makes people susceptible to experiencing further trauma. Every trauma a person experiences weakens the psychological and situational defenses that might have protected them from the next trauma. The exploration of trauma in the novel is further enriched when the text is read through the ideas of Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's main idea is this: the body keeps the score. Trauma ends, but the effect of that trauma on the body does not end so easily. Trauma shapes body, relationships, and perception. Trauma reorganizes the body for survival, and the body struggles to undo the reorganization when the survival mechanism is no longer needed. Even when the danger is gone, the body continues to be in this hyper vigilant mode. We can see that in Jude's story, that even when he is safe, even when he finally finds a loving father figure in a man called Harold, who eventually adopts him, he is still afraid of Harold. Deep down, no matter how much he loves Harold, he is afraid that eventually Harold will also sexually abuse him, like all the other men that did that to him in the past. Silence around trauma is not only about shame, the brain itself resists calling it and struggles to verbalize it. So Dr. Bessel van der Kolk did do some experiments where he saw that when people remember traumatic memories, their brain's ability to be articulate diminishes. So that is one reason why survivors of trauma struggle to talk about their traumas. We might suggest that they should go to therapy, that will help them, but they struggle to talk about their traumas. And it's not just about shame, it's about literally their brain shutting off, their brain refusing to talk about the trauma. And again, the inability to trust people, the inability to trust mental health professionals is an issue that people who have seen such traumas as Jude will experience. Although they need professional help more than anybody else, they struggle to get it more than anybody else. And then the novel also talks about what it is like to love a deeply traumatized individual. So Jude's loved ones struggle with Jude's inability to trust or accept help. Jude's shame, distrust, and self-loathing restricts the flourishing of love and care. And even when he's abused in a relationship, he hates himself so much. And it is not fair, it is not logical, but trauma, people who have experienced trauma cannot believe that. They cannot believe that their shame is not earned. So when Jude's partner abuses him, Jude feels that he deserves it. That is the extent of his self-loathing. So that is one thing that Jude struggles with. A lot of people who endure sexual assault experience this shame, and even when they know that their shame does not make any sense, that it is not their fault and it is the fault of the person who did that to them, that person should be ashamed. The person who abused them should be ashamed, but they feel like no, in spite of that, in spite of knowing that, they are the ones who feel the shame. So that's what Jude struggles with. Loving the traumatized is emotionally demanding and ethically complex, involving the constant fear of doing too much or too little. So Jude also struggles with self-harm, and all his loved ones are torn between intervening, sending him to a doctor forcefully, and trying to maintain his autonomy, trying to maintain his privacy. So if we love him, should we intervene or should we not do that? Because he will be uncomfortable, he will not like that intervention. So what do you do as a loved one? What is your duty? His loved ones are always walking that tightrope between intervening and not intervening, doing too much and not doing enough. And with that, I will like to conclude the presentation. This is the presentation, like this is the research paper. In brief, A Little Life presents trauma as a cumulative condition. Jude's life exemplifies Bessel van der Kolk's claim, the body keeps the score. The novel examines the tension between boundaries, protection, autonomy, and intervention. Trauma narratives encourage readers to approach others with greater understanding and compassion. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Amana Uzma, for your enlightening presentation. Now we'll open for questions and discussion. Any question anyone would like to ask?
The topic was really good. I was much interested. Can I know what made you to read this story?
Well, actually, A Little Life is a very popular book. It has blown up on Book Talk. Dua Lipa has recommended it. It is one of her favorite books. So when I was in my UG, this book was very famous, and everybody was saying that this book is great. You should read it. So I was like, okay, like I want to read it. And the thing is, I like novels that are very long. So 700-page novels, novels which deal with a lot of characters, a lot of years. That's my thing. So I read it, and I'm very happy. I'm thank you, 20-year-old Amna, for reading this book. And yeah, that's my answer. And I will recommend this book to you as well. If you can manage the heartbreaking content, please do read it.
So at the beginning of this book, there is this. I absolutely love this book. I love the way it is written, more than the kind of trauma it gives after while you read it. But there's a disclaimer at the beginning saying that you will encounter a list of these as you read. Do you think the reader's engagement with the text resurfaces their traumatical experiences and make them sort of feel deeply about what they've gone through and kind of resurface the trauma? Do you feel that is a good practice as a writer to engage with your readers in that way, or you feel that's beneficial to open up discussions on mental health?
Okay, well, this is a heavy question, but the thing is, a lot of people who have experienced sexual abuse themselves have read A Little Life. They have read the works of, let's say, Edward St. Aubyn, who was sexually abused by his own father, and he went on to write incredibly funny. They're actually very funny. His books are very funny and very heartbreaking at the same time, very hopeful. So people who have experienced sexual abuse, who have experienced domestic abuse, Jude experiences a lot of things. If anybody has experienced any of those things, such books can absolutely help in their healing journey, but they need to have healed a bit to even pick up such a book and read it and not be triggered by it. So, do I recommend such books to survivors of any kind of trauma? I absolutely do, but they need to be prepared to read that. And I know of a friend who was like, she underwent something traumatic and she discovered this book which really helped her overcome her trauma. But she discovered that book when she was 16 years old by serendipity. So I feel like sometimes this is a bit romantic, a bit sentimental, sappy, but sometimes I feel like when you're ready, God will send that book to you somehow. So yeah, but yeah, don't take that very literally. Do think for yourself, am I ready to read this book or no? And you can always try. And yeah, so it's these books like this double-edged sword, might help a person, might also completely annihilate them. Timing is everything.